All right, fantastic. By the way, congratulations are in order, I believe. I have some spies. A particular spy told me that today, the 4th of February, is the 8th year anniversary of you launching your fashion business.
It is.
Yeah. Congratulations.
I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly where you got that information from. I'm so impressed. It is.
Yeah.
I actually cannot believe that it's like 8 years of LM. It's like this dream that I literally had since I was 5 years old. So
since you were 5?
Since I was 5. You remember the Bold and the Beautiful? Yeah. So essentially that's where the plant was seeded. And the seed was planted.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And I just remember being like immersed within soapies, because that's all we played at home. Like Bold and the Beautiful, Generations, or all of those,
Yeah, because when you're coming back from school,
exactly.
Okay, guys, for those of you who don't know, we actually went to the same school.
We did.
Hudson Park High. Did you go to the primary school?
I did.
Oh,
I did.
Okay. I also went to the primary school.
I was in Club 13.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, from grade 0.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
From grade 0
until
to matric. Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. So, but anyway, like I went standard 5, just still called standard in my day, just standard 5 when I went to Hudson.
Yeah.
And so we both went to the same, but like I think when in primary school, I was definitely in high school.
Yeah.
And I suspect that both my brother and my sister were in primary school with you, but like I think they're each like a year or 2 ahead of you.
Okay.
But anyway, I digress. I remember when we were coming back from school, when you arrived, they were watching Days of Our Lives.
Yeah, reruns.
Right?
Yeah.
Days of Our Lives.
I remember.
And then after that, it would be The Bold and the Beautiful. So, and you watch fashion. You saw this fashion. What was it that attracted you to the fashion, just watching that?
Well, aside from
If it was fashion.
It was definitely fashion.
Yeah.
But aside from the risque storylines and the affairs that come within soapy dramas, it was just that flair, It was just like, there was just something about just fashion, and I think it was kind of indicative with the whole setup of a soapie, and which also led to just like seeing pop culture around me. And I didn't necessarily have MTV at the time or anything like that, but there was quite a rise.
Guys, if you had a decoder and a satellite dish, you were the one. This podcast is hosted at the stylish Rockfeller Hotel and Apartments in Cape Town. Whether you're a business traveler or a vacationer, this stunning property has everything you need for an unforgettable stay. Enjoy breathtaking views of the mother city. Dine at the top-notch restaurant. Stay fit at the well-equipped gym. Relax at the top floor indoor swimming pool. And beat load shedding. The Rockfeller has it all. Make it your go-to destination on your next visit to the mother city.
But I remember seeing like publication and magazines was just everywhere. Like I do definitely remember that. I remember going to Vincent Park and going to CNA.
You are me. Do you know that? I used to do that. I used to go to Vincent, DSNA, but and just so you stand by the magazine racks,
literally just
and then go through.
I remember.
Oh my!
I remember doing that. Yeah. And I mean, like that was just like my way into it, because my family's coming from, they're all teachers, so everyone's a teacher, so no one is like really that into fashion. I mean, they love dressing up for church, but aside from that, like
fashion show on its own.
it was just definitely not. Aside from Sunday, fashion was just like whatever. You know? So it was just through that. That was the kind of media that I was first introduced to. And then just also being a 90s kid, there was also the rise of TKZ and Boom Shaka.
It's
you know,
yeah.
And just seeing like Lebo Motosa, and like also just how she's also like just always dripped in gold together with like Brenda Fassie. I was just always so interested in it, and I think that's.
And I mean, at the time, when did you realize that fashion is a career? It's something that people get into. Was it bold?
It was bold.
Okay.
Yeah, it was 100% bold.
Okay.
It was all because.
Who was your favorite?
I mean, I was definitely always Team Forrester. Always Team Forrester. But I loved the sass of Sally Spectra.
Sally was fantastic.
I loved the sass of Sally Spectra. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just the Forrester house, it was just so like the shining mm-hmm. one, you know. So because I really got to see, even though it was just like through that daytime soapie, it was like you saw them sketching and you saw them having the discourse between like the sketch onto like the product development and onto the runway show. So I definitely had an idea of like, okay, cool, this is actually how it's done. Like this is like.
So what you saw on TV, right?
Yeah.
Versus what it's actually like. Was there like quite a stark difference, or apart from those small steps that you saw?
Well, it's definitely, it's nuanced, you know, like I can see the similarities, but in the real world, let's be real, there's like a whole bunch of other things in between that you don't.
It's a lot grittier.
It's a lot grittier, and I think also the ways that the times have changed. I feel like fashion back then was literally just about like fabulous clothing and the business, but now I think it's about clothing, business, and also like what's your point of view, you know, the way that people are looking at brands and even like listening to music or watching movies. They're like, what is the point of view of this particular story? So I definitely understand that's how people are looking at fashion right now, but that's not that there wasn't those kind of conversations back in like the early 90s. So it was literally about like how fabulous the show is, the spectacle and everything that kind of comes with it. And
I mean, is there pressure to right now to sort of have this unique point of view, or even if it's not unique, but it's a it's apparent and it becomes a cultural point, or if you will. Is that the kind of...
I wouldn't necessarily say there's pressure on my side, and I would like to think there's no pressure from other designers' side, because I would like to think that your point of view is just real, you know. So if it's real, it's coming from you, and no one can really touch it. So the pressure from your story and what your business or your label's about, that's not something that I really feel. But I think the pressure that I do feel is like keeping up in terms of like being relevant.
Quick one. This production would not have been possible without the good help of our friends over at FeelSA. They have given us some of the equipment that we use to shoot this podcast and some of these episodes. In fact, all of the episodes that we've shot so far. Please go and check out some of the good news stories they have on feelsa.co.za, and also check out the YouTube channel and subscribe to them as well. Click the link in the description to find out more. I want to get into something here when we talk about that, because you won the LVMH Prize.
Yes, well, it was the Karl Lagerfeld Prize of the LVMH Prize.
Yes, it's still LVMH.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
It is.
So, and it is a big, big deal. And because, I mean, I did some research there, and there was a panel of 66 international experts, and over 32,000 public votes, and 1,900 applicants. That is insane. That you emerged like, you know, as one of 3 winners, right? That year.
Yeah, it's one of actually 4 winners.
4 winners.
One of 4 winners, yeah.
Okay, but for me, that is ridiculous that you have so many. When you applied, in your mind, did you have any kind of inkling? You say, you know what, I think I stand a really, really good chance here.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Well, when I applied 5 times. So that's essentially like 5 years in a row, right?
So, okay.
So I remember in year 1 when I applied, I was like, yeah, of course, I'm definitely going to get this. I was just like, I think it was a year when we had this beautiful collection called Taintless. It was like this navy blue men, and they were like running in the desert. And it was just like, I was like, knocked it off. Like, we got this, you know. So that was like the first year. Didn't get it. And then I was like, okay, cool. Second year of applying, I was like, no, we definitely gonna get this. Like, hands down, it's gonna happen. We didn't get it. And then we had an opportunity to do a showcase at New York Fashion Week with the CFDA.
What's CFDA?
So it's pretty much the American Fashion Council, right? And I mean, they're huge. They really like the American version of the British Fashion Council. So it's just a huge fashion council within America, and they support their designers. So we had an opportunity to showcase at New York Fashion Week, and I was like, we got this in the bag.
How well is it because you're well received at Fashion Week?
Correct.
In New York Fashion Week?
Correct.
Okay, well, definitely.
Yeah, correct. I was like, okay, no, we definitely have this in the bag. And I think after that, we also had like this follow-up meeting with one of the scouts from the LVMH Prize, and had a wonderful lunch with her, and it was so fantastic just connecting with her. And I was like, oh my God, I think we got this in the bag. And I remember calling my right hand, my creative assistant, and saying, Alex, I think we got it in the bag. Like, I think we're going to make the LVMH Prize this year.
Because of the conversation.
Because of the conversation, you know. I was like, yeah. I was like literally seeping into the butter, you know. And we didn't get it. We didn't get it. And I was like, what? Okay. Maybe we're just not prepared. Maybe we're actually just not prepared for it. So we didn't get it that year. And then the following year...
So that's year 4.
This is year 4. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now the following year, I go to London, and I happen to like bump into the initial person that I saw in New York, and we chatted, and I was having like a bit of a private showroom there, and I was like, come through, I'd love for you to like take a look at the products. And she was like, wow, you have just excelled so much since New York. Like, this is fantastic. I really think you need to enter the LVMH Prize. And I was like, yes,
wow,
we got it. So anyways, enter the prize. We didn't make it.
Number 4.
Yeah, we didn't make it. We did not make it at all. We didn't make it. And I was like, what the fuck? I was literally like, okay, cool. This is when the faith is literally, it's waning now.
Yeah.
The faith is waning, and I'm feeling like, oh, okay, well, didn't make it. That kind of sucks. But like, other designers did, and those other designers are really fantastic. But I was like, I really wanted to be part of that crew, you know. I wanted to be part of that table, that cabinet. I was like, LM is going to be there. We didn't make it. So anyways, it's pretty much year 5. And it's January, and they start their PR like in December going into January. So it's January 2021. And I'm seeing the PR of LVMH, and I'm like eye rolling, and I'm like, oh my God. Year 5, I'm definitely, I actually had the conversation with myself, and I was like, fuck it, I'm not going to do it. I was just like, I kind of just let go of the idea of it. And I was just like, nah, I'm not going to do it at all. And then later on that evening, one of my friends, Carl Weeks, was down from Amsterdam. And him and I had collaborated before. We had this incredible trip up to Namibia, and we did a story there, which was really fantastic. And he came down, and he had spent some time in Europe, and we were just like talking, and I told him, hey man, like, I just see LVMH is like circulating again. He just said to me, you got to do it. Just do it, you know. And I did.
So when he says, do it again.
Yeah.
It's year 5.
It's year 5.
Are you not rolling your eyes at that point? You're like,
yeah, 100%.
Why am I entering? And so, now, when you enter, so is it what kind of effort are you putting in now?
Well,
in fact, like, and what is your faith like at that moment when you're entering?
Okay, well, it's the same level of effort in the sense of like the submission is very black and white. It's very clear,
okay.
You know. So the effort is quite simple. to be quite honest, in like entering.
So it's work that you have
exactly
done previously.
Exactly.
And it's got to be from the previous season.
Correct.
Okay, so it's not like a life kind of...
No.
Okay.
So it's always based on like 2 collections.
Okay.
And then business information.
All right.
Very to the point. So, but the difference this time around is that the faith was literally waning. Like I didn't have that like excitement.
Waning or waned?
Waned.
Okay.
It waned, actually. It totally waned. But it was after just speaking to Khaya, and he was just like, listen, this is something that you've clearly always wanted. And even though the 4 times before were unlucky, who like you don't know how the 5th time might be, you know? And maybe that's just the little inspiration that I kind of just needed, you know? So the following day I entered, but this time around of entering, it was quite interesting because my feelings around it wasn't so attached. I wasn't attached to the idea of we're going to get it. I wasn't attached to like, I was just like, I'm doing this, YOLO, whatever. Mm-hmm. Like I had just let go of like the expectation that I would make it. And I also realized that because I had a level of expectation the previous times, it led to heavier disappointment because I felt obviously somewhat entitled to have something that obviously didn't belong to me when I was actually when I wasn't actually ready for it, you know. So entered for the 5th time in 2021 and actually let go of it. Forgot about it and we go, and this was like in the beginning of January, and I'm still seeing the PR of it going around, and I really didn't think too much of it. I really was just like, okay, cool, whatever, I tried and it is what it is. So it's a Sunday, and I think it's like the first week of March. It's a Sunday, and I'm just doing admin at home, literally on my laptop, doing some work. And I get an email, and it's from Sophie Brokart, and she's a CEO of one of the LVMH brands. And the email pretty much says, "Hi Lukhanyo, it would be advised for you to connect with this firm to help with your trademarks." I was like,
okay.
What?
All right.
Like, I was like, that's so random. Why would Sophie Brokart from LVMH mail me,
yeah.
You know? And then I thought to myself...
And obviously at the time you said, this is a big deal. If she's telling me to trademark my...
Yeah, she's like, here...
So you had to trademark your...
Well, I had to trademark Lukhano Mdingi within the Asian market.
Asian market?
Yes, specifically.
Okay, so, okay.
Yeah. Because, yeah. Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So received that email on a Sunday, partly cloudy. I was listening to Sade in the background. I remember it clearly.
Mm.
And I was like, what does this mean? Like, I mean, I was like, why are you telling me to trademark, you know? And then my response to her was like, thank you so much for getting in touch, keeping it very professional. However, does this mean that we've made it into the prize? Like, that's literally like what I asked her. And of course, her being French, she actually said nothing at all. I was like, okay, no, and I don't mean that in a bad way, don't get me wrong. She said nothing, and I was like, such a strange email. Like, why would you tell me this? And I'm like walking up and down in a panic in my apartment, thinking like, well, I mean, okay, definitely getting in touch with this law firm that she has recommended to do the trademarks, but like, there's
Who's paying for the trademark?
Who's paying? I think I paid. Yeah, okay. I paid for the trademark. Yeah, I paid for the trademark. And yeah, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, why would she send this? It must have to do with the prize. 24 hours later, I get a phone call from a French number. And I mean, based on the caller ID, it's like +33.
Yeah.
France. And then I'm like, what is this? You know? and it's Aisling. She's one of the liaisons from the LVMH Prize, and it's like a 26-second phone call. And she simply says, "Congratulations, you've made it into the semifinals of the LVMH Prize." And I was like totally lost for words.
And it's so fun. And the last 4 times, there were no phone calls.
Not only were there no phone calls, there's also no thing like, "We've respectfully declined your application."
Oh my word!
You know?
Yeah.
So I only knew that I didn't make it by the time they announced the first semi-final. So I was like, okay, cool, I definitely didn't make it. But
sorry, I just want to give context of what LVMH is for some of people who might not know what LVMH is. So LVMH is a group, and the currency of LVMH is currently the world's richest man. He's number 1 on the list.
Yeah.
And so these are some of the companies brands that you know of, you probably use, like Moet and Chandon, Dom Perignon, Hennessy, okay? Just some of the alcohol brands. And then when it comes to fashion, it is LV.
Yeah.
It is Dior. It is
Fendi.
Fendi and Fenty.
Yeah.
Rihanna's Fenty.
Yeah.
I think they bought like a 50% stake.
They bought a stake there.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure the percentage.
Yeah.
It's Bullied. It's really all these extraordinary top tier brands.
They are insane. It's a massive, massive luxury goods company.
Yeah.
That's what they are.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a massive deal.
It is.
So yeah, okay.
It is. So this time around, we actually did get a phone call, and I mean, I was really happy. I was really happy, and I also remember saying to myself, it makes sense for now. Like, also just like when in that moment, I was obviously looking back at the 4 previous times when we didn't make it, and I could totally understand why.
So how were you that philosophical about it this time?
Well, I think like through the trajectory of like having this business, I've realized that it's very human based, right? And there's quite a level of accountability that one has to hold, especially when you're an entrepreneur. So going through those challenges and also going through readings and listening to podcasts and really like paying attention to like divine fucking order and being in that moment of preparation, of meeting the moment of opportunity, like those are things that I had been like really going through and exercising and kind of practicing. So by the time the 5th time happened, and by the time we got that phone call, I had just a level of emotional intelligence and maturity to really reflect on it in a way that felt right, you know? And it made perfect sense for me as to why we didn't make it. And also, I'm a child of God, you know. I really believe that He gives you what you need when you need it and when you're prepared for it. And I think in hindsight, those previous times that we had entered, we just simply weren't prepared to meet that level of opportunity, because it's a huge opportunity. And I think if you are gifted it and you're awarded it, you need to use it to your fullest potential, you know? And I think we just were in a position where we could. And I could as well, as a designer and as a aspiring entrepreneur that's now pretty much a fully fledged entrepreneur.
Yeah. You know, I know that Virgil was one of the judges, correct?
He was.
May he rest in peace.
Yeah.
And what I also understand is that he had enormous respect and appreciation for your work.
He did.
I mean, how does it feel to have an icon? I mean, he was a living legend at the time, to kind of say, number one, to know your work. Number two, not just to know it, but to have an appreciation for it. I mean,
I think it's so difficult to sometimes speak about Virgil because of the unimaginable loss that so many of us have obviously felt. But he truly is an icon, and he truly pushed the importance of really believing in your dreams and going about the business of getting on to doing it, you know. And what very, 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 very few people know is that I had engaged with Virgil a year and a half before he sadly passed away. So it was in the year of 2020, and hard lockdown. And of course there was, it was such a, politically the world was just at a high. I mean, we all know. And Virgil had reached out to me, but it was through a select group of other individuals that made an introduction for a project that he wanted to work on with the Lukhano Mdingi brand. And I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it, like, at all. Like, it just felt so... And this is even before the LVMH Prize or anything like that, and us being part of it. But it was just, like, so weird. He must have been doing quite a number of projects during the time, but he reached out to LM, and it was very simple. It was over a WhatsApp group that had been created. And there was a project that he had proposed together with his team for Virgil Abloh and Lukhano Mdingi. And for me, it was just like, aside from the project, it was just the engagement and knowing that this individual that's in this revered space is making the time to get to know me as a human being before even like entering the project in itself. And when I say getting to know, I mean literally checking in. How are you? Which I thought was just so like extraordinary. Like, I just thought, like, it's Virgil Abloh, you know? I mean, that's like Beyonce saying to another South African aspiring musician, how are you? You know, that's the only way I can kind of like...
Wait, like, so what goes through your mind when you get like a text like that? Like from, you know, a Virgil. Says,
yeah.
How are you? You're like...
Yeah.
Well, if I was feeling terrible, I'm not anymore.
I know.
Yeah.
And you know what's so funny? It's like you have these, for me at least, it's like, here's this incredible human being, but I'm like, okay, cool. Am I gonna act cool? Am I gonna be honest? Like, how? Like it felt like, how am I gonna interact with this? Like, if I'm too honest, is he gonna think I'm crazy? Is he gonna be like, okay, I don't want to deal with this guy anymore? You know, it was just like, but you know, it was so real. It was so real. So the WhatsApp texts, the private WhatsApp text also led to. So we had our private WhatsApp text, but when we spoke about the project, that was within the group chat because there were obviously other individuals that were part of the project. So when we weren't chatting on WhatsApp, we would do the Zoom calls, which I was also like, I couldn't believe it, because there were moments when he's literally in the back of a car doing his Zoom call, and I'm thinking to myself, this guy's obviously so busy.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a single time for those scheduled meetings that he missed at all. There wasn't a shift. There wasn't like, here's the only way we can postpone to the next 7 hours, or maybe like in 3. Never at all. He really stuck to it. And I still couldn't believe it, because of the position that he was in, to still make the time for someone like me, you know.
And don't you think that he identified you for a reason? And, it's someone like you, but it's you. You know what I'm saying?
I know, and I wanted to say...
It's not just like...
of course. And this isn't...
Because it's not like you reached out to him.
Yeah.
And please recognize me. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I think it would be a very different reception if it's that. But in this case, it's someone who is like, I enjoy this person's work.
Yeah.
And there's something about them.
Yeah.
That he feels himself inspired by, and maybe just inspired by, also like to bring to light as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think that's definitely true, but it still doesn't take away. it doesn't take away my experience of having those internal dialogues of like, because I know I'm good, and I'm good because I love what I do, but I'm also good because I have incredible people that help uplift the whole point of view and the whole process, you know. And that's why I believe in the Lukhano Mdingi brand, and that's why I believe in myself. But I'm not gonna lie, like when someone of that of that position see something within you, I'm gonna be like, what? Like, especially because there's so many of us, actually. There's so many designers. There's so many designers that really...
And obviously the sound that you look at and you're like, this person's so good and that person's good.
And that's the thing. All those other designers that there's so many of, they are so good. They are so good, you know? So of course I would ask myself, not him, like, hey man, what? Like,
did he ever call you?
Did we?
I'll tell you why I'm asking.
No, it was never a call. It was
always a text.
Always a text.
I was busy, I get it.
Always a text. It was never a call.
So funny story. So like years ago, so I made this ad. It was a group of people, but it was over a very short space of time at work, and it was for MTN. I was still a creative. I was still a copywriter at the time. Yeah. And it was a Women's Day ad. Yeah. And in this ad, we featured the now late Winnie Mandela. And randomly, so this ad is coming out, this flighting. Randomly someday, I get a call like that week, and I answer, I'm like, hi, Khaya. And then, hi, Khaya. I literally stood up. I was like, what? I stood up.
And you knew.
I was like, what the hell? And it was so weird. Like, whenever I received a phone call from someone I did not expect, like someone very high up, if I was sitting down, I stand up for some reason. I just, and I don't know why that happens. Because it's that shock to the system. And that's you, I imagine, getting that text. How are you? You're like, whoa. Let me throw my phone out.
No, 100%. Truthfully, if Virgil or anyone that's in that like really revered space had to call me that I really respected, I wouldn't be able to breathe. Like at all. I wouldn't be able to breathe. I would be like, you know, so,
that is so
maybe the texting was definitely good.
So what did you, like from your interactions with him, what kind of lessons, like things that you picked up from him? Because there must have been like nuances and things that you're like, what an amazing little trick, or maybe not a trick, but a characteristic, like if there were any.
So simple. Always make the time for people and always respect people's time, you know, because that's what he did. Like, that's what he did for me. So I know that's what he did for every other person that he had the opportunity to work with. Well, that's what I would like to think. So really respecting people's time and their presence, and also acknowledging their contribution to the project is super important, because like you see these runway shows and it's like one designer walking down, you know, but technically there's literally a village of individuals that have added so much of their finesse and their contribution and their ingenuity to the whole project, you know. And he was so cognizant of that, and even just through the communication of things, he made it very clear, you know. Or you could just read between the lines that like, this guy is celebrating people.
Wow.
So that's.
I love that.
That's something that I will always take with me, and I think that's something that
celebrating people. Well, that's beautiful.
100%. But I think that's what we also have as specifically back home at Khaya in South Africa. We move through community. You know, we move through community. Our cousins and our cousins, they are brothers or sisters, you know, and it's like we move through community, and I think that's something that's really indicative even within how I move within my business and within my practice, and it's something that I felt within the late Virgil Abloh.
And so, like, because we were talking earlier about how, you know, it's pretty intense right now. So why? Just explain to me, why is it so hectic right now for you?
Yeah, of course. Well, making the marriage.
I suppose I was asking, is it the fashion weeks? What is happening? Why are you so busy?
Yeah, well, making the marriage routine fashion and design has been difficult. You know, it's not an easy.
Okay. For the ill-equipped and uninformed like myself. So what is the difference then between fashion and design? Because like a commoner like myself, right? I'm thinking that, well, fashion design, I think it's one thing. So now you're saying that it's making the transition between fashion and design. I'm like, eh?
No. And I actually have to apologize about this. It's actually fashion and entrepreneurship. That's what I actually wanted to say.
Okay.
Excuse me. Fashion design, same thing, same WhatsApp group. So making the marriage between fashion and entrepreneurship is difficult. It's not an easy thing, you know. And for us being a South African business that's based in...
So when you're saying fashion, you were thinking about the business of it?
Yeah.
And then design is the creation
100%.
element of it. Okay.
You got it?
All right. Yeah.
You got it. So we are a South African business that showcases in Paris, that also leads to having our sales in Paris, which also leads to having retail partnerships that are based in different parts of the world, specifically within the UK, Europe, and the United States of America. So it's like we have these incredible accounts. We base here in Mdanstane. We produce in South Africa. We produce select categories in Burkina Faso, then Turkey, then Italy. So that's quite a machine. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's quite a machine.
If I may ask, what do you produce here in Burkina Faso?
Of course.
And Turkey, what are the things that...
Of course.
And why do you choose those countries for certain things?
Yeah, it's so... I mean, it's so... This is like a 10-hour conversation now, so I'm going to try to break it down in terms of like answering your question, because it's so layered. Yeah. But within South Africa, we focus on our easy basics, like our t-shirts, our vests, our shorts, but also some of the handcraft that we do. So essentially, we work with an incredible NGO that's based in Khaya called Pelani. And this NGO was actually introduced to me by Nicholas Coots' family. Nicholas Coots is a late designer that also used to be one of my best friends at the time before he sadly passed away. And when we started working with Pelani, it was just, they make tapestries, right? So there's a lot of hand-woven craft that goes into it. And when we started working with them, it added so much value onto our business, because we realized that there's quite a strong social impact that's happening here working with Omama, especially Omama that are really excellent with their hands. So a lot of the hand textiles that we do within South Africa is made there in Khaya at the NGO Pelani, you know. And then we also do a lot of work in the Eastern Cape in terms of our brushed pieces. So there's another community that's based there.
What's a brushed piece?
So it's our brushed knitwear pieces. So all our fluffy scarves and our mohair and merino wool items. So we do that within the Eastern Cape. But there's also another business here that produces some of our knitwear pieces, the hand knitwear pieces in Maitland. So those categories are made here in South Africa. And then within Burkina Faso, a lot of our more refined hand textiles are made there. So we work with another textile community specializing within handcraft and also artisanal dyeing. So that's in Burkina Faso, and that's in Ouagadougou, which is pretty much the capital of Burkina. But it's also 3 hours. There's also another community 3 hours away from Ouagadougou, which is Langare, and that's another space where they do all the artisanal hand dyeing. So anything that's artisanal hand dyeing, that's made in Burkina Faso, and we have that very much within our brand, within our business, and our categories as well. So that's made in Burkina, and then our leathers are made in Turkey, and then our tailored items are made in Italy.
How do you keep track of all of this?
I know.
And the quality. So do you have to go to each market? Do you to inspect and see that they're crafting?
So we were really smart about it. And the thing is, within Burkina Faso, there are already there's a product developer that's there. And we've worked closely with them for the last, I would say, 3.5 years. And Kalfa and Ocean are incredible. So they work in Cabas, and Ocean, who pretty much works for Cabas and has an affiliation with the Ethical Fashion Initiative, she has like quite a wide range of like textiles and product development. So the quality control is always on lockdown, which is really great. And then within Turkey, we have a product developer that facilitates that and oversees the quality. And then within Italy, we also have a product developer that's based there that oversees the quality.
It's like a conglomerate.
It's so, it really is.
It's so intricate.
It is. It really is.
Having to keep up with all of those things. I mean, how, and I'm assuming you really have to really know in detail the kind of quality you want with each crafted item.
Yeah, but it essentially goes hand in hand with what I said earlier on. It's aligning yourself with the right people, and those individuals are adding onto the value of the story, you know. Trust, 100%. And I'm always doing this. That's okay.
I'm always going there and there.
Yeah.
But so before I took the off-ramp, it was you're working with retailers in Europe.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
So that's where we were.
Yes.
So how did that end up happening?
So when Lukhanyo Mdingi was first part of the LVMH Prize, that brought a lot of international visibility to the brand, right? And with these competitions such as the LVMH Prize or Andam or the International Walmart Prize, a lot of buyers and retailers are obviously looking for new young talent, and they see the new young talent based on these revered and respected platforms and competitions, right? So when we were part of the LVMH Prize, Essence, which is a retailer that's based in Canada, and as well as Net-a-Porter, which is predominantly based within the UK, they saw the Lukhanyo Mdingi brand. And that was the beginning of us having global distribution. Our main wholesaler from the very beginning has been Merchants on Long, and they have supported Lukhanyo Mdingi in the most sublime way. But it was through these international partnerships of specifically Net-a-Porter and Essence that just elevated us to global distribution. And that kind of built onto getting more partnerships and essentially where we're at today.
Okay, so because that's how I was trying to figure out what the LVMH Prize does for you. And I think you've essentially kind of answered that.
Yeah, it's a networks.
And what do you think the prize does for LVMH?
I think it adds value onto their portfolio of showing that they really do support young entrepreneurs and creativity and designers. That's what it does, straight up.
So, like, I do know that when it comes to fashion, right, particularly if, like, you come from Isenke, was Mdanstane?
Well, growing up, I was born in Mdanstane, stayed there for like 3 days, and then my mom was like, growing up, we're going to Vincent. Straight up.
Okay, now it makes sense of Vincent.
No, but we still have, Kwa9, we still have our house there. And
because which area Kwa9?
You're drunk up, and now I'm challenged.
I was because we not far from Cecilia Makiwane.
Yeah, which is where I was born. Yeah,
okay, yeah.
But it's in NU9. I'm just not too sure exactly. Everything Mdanstane to me.
Yeah, I get it. You're right. It's hard to say.
It's hard to say.
It is very, very hard to say. Because it's like
yeah.
Because it's easier for me to say. But in fact, it's so easy for me to say.
Yeah.
Is that so if you usuka kwa-3 and it's a Cecilia Makiwane is on your left and you drive where the taxis stop, where you're going to turn left or right. That's how we stayed. It's very easy.
It's easy. For me, it's easy. Straight up.
But for someone else who lives it's hard to describe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad you understand.
No,
we still have our family house there. And when I go back Monty, I go to Vincent, but then we'll go back Mdanstane just to obviously see the whole family and everyone.
So what I wanted to ask is, because that's how I was trying to figure out what the LVMH Prize does for you. And I think you've essentially kind of answered that. So maybe then it's not that intense because I don't know Vincent how that would be. Because I imagine Mdanstane, if you're like, yo, I want to do fashion.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure there are lots of discouraging words. But no, man, fashion. Why would you want to do fashion? Well, how did you, if you got any such words?
Yeah.
So was your family quite encouraging? And if you had some discouraging words, how did you deal with those?
That's such a great question. And I'm glad that you brought it up. I come from a family of 5 of us. So it's Uputlundi, then it's Uputludwe, then it's Uputluyanda, then it's Uluvoyo, then Uluvo, and Lukhanyo, shirt 6. So I have like 5 older siblings that took the brunt of everything. Of everything.
Okay.
Especially Uputlunda's shame. I mean, you know, the oldest being like the pressure. You know? So you understand.
Yeah.
You understand something that I don't understand. Yeah. So by the time it came to Lukhanyo, like
they're relaxed.
They're so relaxed. They're so relaxed. I mean, last born privilege is a real privilege, and I've definitely benefited from it. And I can also feel it within the family dynamics, only because they're just so relaxed when it comes to me. I think, of course, I would like to think I'm very obedient, but I think parenting styles do, like you I'm not a parent, but I think parenting styles do.
They transition over time.
Yeah, they change, you know.
Because they're like, well, I didn't kill the first one.
Exactly, and I didn't kill the second one, or the third one, or the fourth one. So really, by the time it got to me, like they were just so relaxed. And by the time I said, and they always saw I was really creative. I always loved art and design, and I love sports and the spirit of sport, don't get me wrong, I love it, but I never really engaged fully into sports. So they always knew that.
Like, wasn't sports compulsory?
It was, and I did it.
Oh, okay, just checking.
I did it.
I remember I had to do
No.
You had to have a proper
note
says that, you know, you have some life, you know.
I know, no, 100%.
So there's a reason you can't, like, medical certificates, you can't do sport.
But even when I say, like, it didn't engage with it, I mean it in the sense of, like, outside of that hour of practice, I was like, juices.
Okay.
You know, I was like, juices, you know. But so they knew that, like, creativity was something that was my number one. I mean, I was going to art camp. I was going to, like, Grahamstown Arts Festival.
What is it? Did you do art in school?
I did.
Did you go, what is it, Belgravia?
I did.
You went to Belgravia?
I went to Belgravia.
I also went to Belgravia.
Did you also go?
I went to Belgravia.
I love this.
So I did art.
Oh, I love that.
Was Mr. Gibbs still there?
No.
He was so, I wish he had been there.
No.
Such an eccentric character.
Really?
Like when you say eccentric,
yeah,
proper eccentric. And there was another teacher who was Mrs. Feinstein.
She was still there.
Oh, she was still there.
She was still there, but I loved her.
Oh my God.
But she was like, Feinstein. But the thing is, I loved her by the end, because in the beginning, I mean, like, she's not the friendliest.
She is not.
But she is so fantastic. Like, and I love her humor, and she's definitely someone I'd love to have a whiskey with.
Oh, actually, I'd love to see what she's like.
Yeah.
Sorry, I love to digress. It's my favorite thing.
No,
I had Mrs. Feinstein, because I did art.
Yeah,
right?
I had no idea.
And the one time, I'm painting. It's like an exam. So I'm painting, and she keeps coming into the class because this is how I used to love to paint.
Yeah.
So I'd put my canvas, not just like a piece of paper, to be
Yeah.
honest, on the floor, and that's how I would paint.
Yeah.
Like on the floor.
And
so she's coming, she was teaching another class. She keeps coming to the class and she walks up, she paces up and down, look at everyone's work, and then she stands in front of my work and looks at it while I'm working, and then walks out. Comes back, and she does this about 5 times through the day. Eventually, I'm like you, I'm very obedient. And, you know, so eventually I'm so frustrated by how she keeps standing in front of my work and just looking and walking away. And said, Mrs. Feinstein, why do you keep standing in front of my work? Do you have some input? Because you just stand here and then you stare and then you walk away.
What did she say?
She says, she had this high-pitched voice. You are going to be a very, very good painter one day. She turns around and she walks out. The entire class goes like this, looking at me.
Brilliant.
It is the best compliment she's ever given to anybody.
100%.
And now I don't paint.
I mean, well, you, according to her, you would have been really great, and it's probably true.
Wow.
I actually haven't heard her compliment anyone, so I don't think she's changed at all.
Wow.
At all.
So you did art. That is fantastic.
Did art, got honors for art, got the fancy blazer
for
it.
The blazer.
Got the blazer.
Okay.
Got the blazer. My family was so impressed. Mm-hmm. I was like, damn straight.
Nice.
Damn straight. It was so funny. So, man, what were we talking about?
The discouraging.
Yeah.
How did you, if you had anything that people said that was discouraging about you trying to think about pursuing this route?
Yeah, no, my family was so supportive. They were so supportive. I think the discouraging things didn't necessarily have to do with my career. It just had to do with a young black gay boy. That's the discouraging stuff. But like in terms of like art and design, no, so supportive.
So,
yeah.
Because you say that like the discouraging thing about like being a young gay boy.
Yeah.
Like what? In what way is it things that?
Well, this was just more in a school sense, you know. Okay. Like it's just like everyday bullying that comes with if you're different, you know, if you are if you are something that's supposed to be shamed for, that's the kind of discouraging thing that I definitely felt and experienced and was bullied for. But that was in the context of just simply being a gay boy, you know, and being like just extra feminine or a little bit too much or a little bit of a sway in his walk, or you know. So those are definitely the things that I had experienced. But yeah,
because school can be very harsh. So I'm just trying to figure out, like,
I hated it.
Because
I hated it so much.
I mean, like, how do you? I mean, like, if I look back, there's only one thing maybe I remember someone saying harsh that I thought was harsh to me, right?
What did they say?
And I'm not even, you know, and it's not even. It's not even like an exaggeration.
Yeah.
Like, when I think about it, it must seem so freaking infantile. So this girl, I always kept to myself. I was in the library and all of that. Anyway, so this girl comes up to me. It's around lunchtime, and I'm walking. I'm in the quad, and she says to me, "Why are you always smiling?" But the way she says it, like she makes it look like inaba ingqondo aziphelelanga type way, the way she says it. And then I'm like, oh my god, there's obviously something wrong with me smiling.
Yeah.
I should stop this freaking smiling thing.
Yeah.
And I don't even know I'm doing it in the first place.
Yeah.
Why always smiling? And I was like, so that entire week, so I'd catch myself smiling.
Oh man.
Because there's something wrong with this. I shouldn't be smiling. You know, and I do this all the time.
Yeah.
But then I forgot all the time. And so, but because now I think that was a tough thing, you know. For me. So, and it happened once.
Yeah.
It's something that happened many times.
Yeah.
And now for a person, you know, for you being bullied for you being you, that must be very difficult.
Yeah. No, 100%.
And how do you sustain the quality of the person you're being?
Yeah.
In those occasions.
Yeah. Oh man.
Because you take that with you all the time.
You do. You definitely do.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, you can. It was such a reoccurring thing. Like, literally, even from like primary school going into high school, like, it was so crippling. It was because essentially, for me at least, I started to look at myself through the eyes of other people as opposed to looking at myself through my own eyes.
Wow.
You know. And it was just like really believing in that narrative of there's so much shame that I should be experiencing because I'm gay, you know. And it was just like, it was really difficult. But I think by having such a strong family unit, and this isn't to suggest that we spoke about me being gay, but I think I have such a strong family infrastructure, especially coming from my gran and my aunt and my mom, that they've just always moved through motivation, you know. And even though it was never really spoken about, they definitely knew, and they could definitely see when things were amiss, and just knew what to say to kind of just keep that fire within me burning, I guess. So it was after high school where I really started to like feel so comfortable within myself, because I also like left that institutionalized space, but also left East London, which is a small town, you know, and moved to Cape Town, which is a lot more liberal. So it was just like, I think the friends that I have had, and the spaces and communities that have moved around, and they've always just been somewhat supportive, actually. So even though this other bad stuff was happening in school and in high school, I was still anchored by like good people around me that still loved me, you know. So I think it's also them that just I don't know, just kind of kept me going.
It's such a difficult thing for me when I think about it, because there is the othering, right? Of you, and so now you're forced to look at yourself through the eyes of other people.
Yeah.
But how? I mean, I can't even begin to compute, because the only way I can kind of think about the otheringness.
Yeah.
Was because yours is multi-layered. One, Hudson Park was, I don't know if in your day it was pretty white.
Yeah, it definitely became more multiracial, 100% by the time I was there, 100%.
I mean, when I was
especially
there,
in high school.
Yeah, in high school, it was like, I don't know, like 10, maybe, I don't know if it was 10% black.
Yeah.
So now already, and then there you're like, there's those layers where like there's a constant being an outsider.
Yeah.
And how has being an outsider influenced, I think, your way of thinking, number one?
Yeah.
And your fashion as well. So just your philosophy, just how you see the world, and then your work.
Yeah. That's such an important question, because I know how it's influenced how I move in the world. I know what it's like to be on the other side. I know what it's like to be marginalized. I know what it's like to be not seen. And I think the way that I approach, I'm not perfect, but the way that
Is it not seen, or is it rejected? Is it just...
No.
So you've never been rejected. It's just not seen.
Well, maybe it's both, actually. Maybe it's both. I've definitely had levels of experiences of rejection, but also not seen. Straight up, just not seen. And it makes you feel unworthy. And I would never want to impose that to anyone. And I think that's why, even just through my team, or even if when there's moments of frustration, my approach to communication is always very magnanimous, because I just know what it's like to experience a level of aggression, to also end up feeling small. And I would hate for someone to say, Lukhanyo Mdingi did that to me. I would hate that, because I know what it's like to be on the other side. So the way that I approach my work and the way that I approach my relationships, I would like to think it's always with a level of compassion, and also asking the questions of like, what do you need? What are your pain points? How can we move forward? You know?
I mean, that goes to a question that I wanted to ask, which is, I'm going to ask, about, because, you know, there are a lot of there are certain people who are very ambitious, and you can see, I am ambitious. They want people to see that they're driven and ambitious. And then you have this very quiet, it's like it's on the surface kind of like ambition, like, and you only say it if you pay attention, and I see it, you know, because and the first time I met you, I was like, there's ambition here. It's total ambition. So do you think that part of your success is the fact that some people don't look at you and say, oh, what a threat, and then they're like, oh, okay, we can work with this person?
I don't know. I don't know, because I've never really asked that question to myself. But I also when I think of myself, or when I look at the brand, or when I look at myself, perhaps through the viewpoint of another, especially right now with where I'm at, I'm not thinking of, do we see him as a threat? You know?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's... I don't think people say it in their minds and say, this one is a threat.
Yeah.
There's maybe they've... I can't quite put it into words, but I know it when I see it in people.
Oh, can I say something to that? That has nothing to do with me at all.
Okay, that's true.
That has nothing to do with me.
That is very true, yeah.
That is a chapter that was written within their own lives before I even came into the picture. So I can't even really carry that in any capacity.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, that is... See? This is why you are where you are. So, so given your early success, well, I would say early, because recognized by Virgil and legends and, you know, LVMH and all of that. And, I mean, you have, you're working with people in Eastern Cape, Nalaba in Western Cape, Burkina Faso, Turkey, Italy. What kind of... is there a level of... No, I wouldn't say maybe fear, pressure about... Because fashion is a lot about being relevant.
It is.
And being part of the conversation constantly.
It is.
And how do you make sure that does not push you in a direction that like you don't want to be pushed?
I know. And that's such a good question, because earlier this year, I have my core team that's here in Cape Town, and then I have my external team, which is still very much part of the business in different parts of the world. Well, one in Joburg, one in Benin/Paris, and then one in Paris. But I mean in Italy. But I made mention to my team today, earlier this year when we had our first meeting, is that we have to go according to our own rules. We have to. Because as incredible as it is to be a part of this industry, it's also really testing, because there's a certain kind of system to it as well. And it's super demanding. It means that you have to be relevant, or maybe I'm wrong, but this is just through my own experience of being within it, you know. You have to keep up, you have to deliver, you have to be visible all the time. And that's really difficult. It was difficult for me because I like to take my time, actually. I like to have a level of consideration within the movements of the Lukhano Mdingi brand, and also with those that I'm working with, you know. I hate having to meet like short deadlines, or like having to like meet the season, like, oh no, the boat has sailed kind of thing. It's like, it's really difficult, you know. So we are really trying to move in a way that, and we're still trying to figure it out, but move in a way that's like, how can we alleviate the pressure of ourselves, of a system that I've been witness to, of like just moving in a way that's like still very much Lukhanyo Mdingi without imposing so much pressure on ourselves. And it's a push and pull, because we're still trying to figure that out. But the fact that we're aware that there's a level of slowing down that needs to take place, now is the time for each one of us within the team to have the discourse with one another, should anyone slide, or should anyone kind of fall into that trap again, you know. So I really think that this year in itself is going to be like a lot of learning experiences. And even by making the decision of taking it slower and taking a pause by not showcasing at Paris this month, is like one of those things of like, okay, cool, we're taking it slow and it's the right thing to do for us, you know? So
is it a brave thing to say, you know what, I'm not going to showcase in Paris?
I was nervous.
Yeah,
I was totally nervous. I was nervous because of when I look at the system of fashion, it is very back to back. It's like there are these rules that are placed that one should follow. So there was definitely a level of like nervousness and fear, because essentially, as much as I do want to take a back seat in terms of taking things slower, I don't want to lose out on opportunities that I have had the privilege of receiving, you know. So there's definitely been a level of fear and not knowing, well, how's the Federation gonna perceive this decision? And to be quite frank, they were just so supportive about it, you know. So I've also learned that if there's a level of truth, especially for the best of conversation, but also the most uncomfortable conversations, a lot of the time people are always very receptive to it in a very positive way.
That's very true.
That's what I've realized.
That's very true. Because, and difficult conversations are difficult for a reason.
Yeah.
But I think,
yeah.
and we try to avoid them so much, and that's what makes things worse.
I cannot tell you the number of uncomfortable conversations I've had in the year of 2022 because of just like trying to keep up. Uncomfortable conversations, truthful but uncomfortable, just to keep up, you know. And that's why I've realized having a level of accountability is so important. And it's like you have to do it, especially if you're looking at the bigger picture of this. Like, I see the Lukhanyo, it's a perennial thing for me, you know, so I have to have this discourse right now to make sure I can still have my friends within this industry.
When you say accountable, so do you have someone or a body of people that you're accountable to?
Yeah,
and
totally.
So, like, what conversations you have with them?
Well, essentially,
they say, because I was strong. So funny. I believe so much in accountability. But what I do find myself doing is that I find it very difficult to talk. And my accountability people are my friends, right? But I find it very difficult to tell them when I'm going through a really tough time. And even though I love these people to death, and I know they will go to the ends of the earth for me, but there is a part of me that finds it very difficult. So, because I imagine, that accountability is part of that. It's to say, I'm going through a tough time, and these are the people I'm accountable to. Therefore, let me have these conversations with them. How do you do that? I'm asking this for myself.
It's so, no, I mean, it's so hard, but I'm not perfect at it either. I think the reason why I have to do it is because I've recognized that there is generally a bigger picture to it, you know, especially within the space of business. Like, if something is done wrong and you were part of that decision making of it leading to that, and there are people involved, you have to just like go about the business of actually being like, hey, X, Y, and Z. And there's no other option unless you disappear, but then you're losing out on trust. And that's something that I really don't want to lose out on. I really don't want to lose out on the trust of people that I actually need in my life, and also need within making this whole institution of Lukhano Mdingi work. Like, there are human beings behind the brand, and I want to do whatever it takes to honor that. I'm human and I do fuck up, don't get me wrong. But I need to do whatever it takes to honor those relationships. And having, again, the best conversations and as well as those comfortable ones, it needs to happen. It's just kind of part of the whole journey of it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Just putting it in practice is probably very hard.
It's fucking hard. It's fucking hard. But I mean, again, it's because there is a bigger picture to it, and I just need to get on with it.
No, that's fantastic. So how has your roots from the Eastern Cape and all of that, if there's been any level of influence in the work that you do, what's the impact of that, and how is the world receiving it?
Yeah, I do believe that the world is definitely receiving it, but again, and we mentioned this earlier on, like there's a certain level of community that comes from just our background, you know, and that's clearly seen within how I move within my collaborations and those that are part of the Lukhano Mdingi brand, you know, and because I experienced a home that's so communal, it wasn't just nuclear. It was all my mum and my gran and my two aunts and all my cousins that are essentially my siblings and outside families that are not even outside family, they family, you know, like that's what I know. That's what I know, and I think that's what I have within how I approach bringing people to the table within LM. So if I didn't have that within my foundation years of upbringing, I don't think Lukhanyo Mdingi, the brand, would be what it is today.
Okay, all right. So we've been kicked out. The team is saying I'm talking too long. So it's because I think we have an issue with one of the batteries. Yeah. But otherwise would have gone on for a lot longer. Do you, because I mean the podcast is called Leave a Message.
Leave a Message,
And do you have something that you want to leave and want to say?
Two things, and I think this obviously comes with like constant self-reflection, but you have to know who you are. Number one, you just have to know who you are. I think that will determine how you move within the world and how you interact with people, number one. And number two, always do the right thing, no matter how difficult it is. Yeah.
There was a great quote. I wish I could remember this. I think it was Al Gore. And he said, I think when he was running for the presidency of the United States and he got beat by George Bush, and he said, always choose the right path over the easy wrong. The difficult right over the easy wrong.
The difficult right. I hear you.
Well, of course, it's very easy. I hear you. It's often so much easier to do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
The wrong thing is so much more accessible than the right thing.
Yeah, I agree.
To make the choice. So I love what you just said.
I agree.
Thank you so much for coming to our humble podcast.
No, this was great.
It's been, and I was very, very happy that you agreed.
Of course.
To come through.
Of course. There's no way I would say no to you.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thanks,
and I'm sure someday we'll have another and another.
Damn straight. I'll be here for it.
Yeah, all right. Thank you.